Regents, the Texas Tech University system is now called to order. Mr. McQuinney, will you please call the roll so that we may establish the record of attendance?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Griffin?
Present.
Mr. Hammond?
He's dialing in.
Ms. Carrick indicated that she will not be here. Mr. Lewis?
Present.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mr. Steinmetz? Mr. Walker?
Present.
Mr. Womble?
Here.
Mr. Sean Lewis?
Present.
Chairman Huckabee?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum. For those who are on the telephone, it is asked that if you get disconnected prior to the conclusion of the meeting, please notify the chairman. It is also asked that for those who are on the teleconference meeting, that prior to speaking, that you please state your name first.
Thank you, Mr. McQuinney.
I just joined the meeting.
Mr. Hammonds,
Thank you.
your
I would ask
attendance
that-
is noted.
Those of you that are calling in, I would ask that you mute your phone, so keep our interference to a minimum until you're speaking. The board will continue in open session, meet as a committee of the whole in a meeting of the board. Mr. Breedlove, will you please present the item regarding the School of Veterinary Medicine project?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the item today is to approve the total project budget for the new School of Veterinary Medicine Amarillo campus located in Amarillo, Texas. This is for bid package number 2. Back in December, the Board of Regents gave us the approval for bid package number 1. So today we're asking for bid pack 2, which will complete the GMP for the headquarters site. So again, this is a refresher of the headquarters site located adjacent to the HSC campus in Amarillo. And then the scope of services, wanted to point out per the Board of Regent rules that we adopted in December, the President's Office is requesting to waive landscape enhancement and public art. We are going to do basic landscaping with hopes to do a little bit more later as the budget allows. And the public art, we are exploring different types of fundraising opportunities that may tie into the public art piece. So we will keep you posted on that as we move forward. The rest of the scope of services are to construct and finish out 185,200 gross square feet, 2-story academic building. Programs divided among 2 wings. We've talked about some of these in the past. The East Wing's got tiered classroom to accommodate 400 students. 2 large classrooms, I think those are 100 students each. Breakout rooms, student affairs office suite, graduate study and work rooms, faculty staff office with support spaces. The West Wing is more the lab and research enhanced spaces separated by controlled access for the students and the staff. Student locker rooms, specialty labs, surgery suites, small animal housing, teaching labs, support rooms for anatomy and pathology will be temperature controlled spaces linked together by a monorail conveying system that'll be able to move the animals from outside to the inside. Receiving area for animal drop off by partners. We'll open into the exam rooms, holding areas, and surgery. That's kind of our small animal area. And then we have 20 additional labs designated for research. We're going to also, 10 of those labs, we're going to shell those out for future development. And that's mainly just because Dr. Lonergan, he hasn't hired all his staff, and we're not sure exactly what kind of research is going to go into those spaces, but they will have, we're going to take those as far as we can. They're probably going to include epoxy floors, we're going to drywall, tape bed and texture, bring some utilities to the lab, and then we'll fit those out as the research space gets utilized. So the project budget, the additional requests, you see the $69,100,165, the majority of that being the contractor of the $60.3 million. But I also wanted to note the $970,000 there under professional services. That's really 2 things. One of those is commissioning, and then the other one, we're including the funding for an on-site project management team, and that's going to be in line with the new facilities rules that were adopted back in December by the board. So we're going to look at all of our options for that project management and pick the best value. In fact, we actually start that process today. Then there's some contingency down there at the bottom. You can see we deducted $658,052. That's to get us to the 90 million. That's project contingency. But as we move forward, this project's about 60% bought out. And as we move forward, if we have any buyout savings, we're also working through some value engineering, trying to cut some costs in other places. We'll try to replenish that. And so the additional request of the 69.1 brings us to the revised budget of $90 million. So the recommendation, Mr. Chairman, is to approve the acceptance of the guaranteed maximum price for construction of bid package 2 for the new School of Veterinary Medicine, Amarillo campus located in Amarillo, Texas. Increase the budget by $69.1 million for a total project budget of $90 million. Waive the board directed fees for landscape and public art. Report the project to the THECB and amend the construction manager at risk agreement. The increase will be funded through the revenue finance system, repaid with gift funds. The total project budget includes the previously board authorized expenditures from RFS repaid with gift funds. And also, I'd just like to note, Dr. Lana Reagan's in the room also if anybody has any specifics about his programming. Mr. Chairman, that's the recommendation.
Billy, thank you very much, and thanks to your team for the hard work on this. It certainly looks very encouraging. Are there any questions for Billy or comments at this point?
Yeah, Billy, this is Dusty Womble. The first figure you mentioned, you said it includes commissioning. What is that?
Commissioning is where we hire professional service to come in and they will actually run through all of the systems, the mechanical and electrical systems, and make sure they operate correctly. They also work with the teams that do all of the, I guess it's the, well, they operate the machines. They take it through as many fail safes that they can, check all the outflow of all the registers, make sure all the air handling units are working correctly, and they'll look at the fume hoods and make sure they're certified too. So they basically take all of our packages that are in this building and make sure they work correctly with the design.
Is that typical of the way we've built other buildings, or is this a new?
Yes, sir. That's actually required by the state now because of such energy conservation that we look at, so it's a requirement.
But this is after the fact? I mean, this is after the building's really completed, or are they involved in the process from day one through that point?
They will look at, what we'll do now is we'll bring them in as we finish design, and then they will come in and start commissioning all the equipment as it arrives on site, and they'll start noting serial numbers as it's been put up. They'll run through all the functioning tests. So when they get finished, we'll know what every piece of equipment's doing, how it's performing. We'll have all those records. Then normally we'll bring them back 11 months later for a warranty walk to make sure they're still operating correctly.
And who's on the hook if, for example, we don't have adequate airflow in this particular piece, or our energy efficiency for heating and cooling isn't what it was designed to be? Does that go back to the manufacturer, the sub? Do they take responsibility for that, or?
It'll probably, we'll start with the engineer of record for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer, make sure his design's right. Then we'll probably look at the equipment, make sure it's operating right, and then we'll look at the install. Yes, sir.
So do they represent our interest? I mean, are they then going to manage that process, or do they just tell us, hey, something is messed up and now it's on us to get it corrected?
The commissioning agent is actually contracted with FP&C, so we have that direct, so there's no conflict of interest with the mechanical engineer or the supplier. And so in their contract, it's spelled out pretty cleanly what they have to perform for us, and they'll end up giving us a results book at the end. We'll take that book, submit it to the engineer of record, and he'll qualify and make sure everything's operating correctly.
And did we bid out that process, or did we bid that out, or do we have a particular vendor that we typically use for this service?
We have a pre-qual list for professional services that we usually select those with, and we'll work, what we like to do is work with the end user, whether it's TTU or TTU HSC, and kind of see who they've used in the past, who they like, is somebody familiar with the campuses.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mark. A question for Dr. Guy and Billy, I guess. Obviously, we've got a template, a design here. What went into that, the development of that design to build this project? Did you did you look at other comparable schools, or is this some new ads, or how would you describe the process, Guy?
We started this process now, we're in the 4th year of the design. We started by looking at other schools. We started with a feasibility study that went through and brought on a design team, and they brought on a consultant who's built most of the vet schools in the country and around the world. And we went through programming with staff here with our consultants. And from that concept, then with the new appropriations, we wrote a new contract with the design firm and basically have the design of what we have today. But it's been a multi-year effort of programming what we need in the building, how that fits in with the construction and what the lay of the land allows us to do and what the budget allows us to do, and we end up with what you see.
Are there unique features that to this design that are unique to other vet schools?
The building builds on some of the best of the most recent vet schools in terms of being able to design around curriculum and around building to go hand in hand. So we've been able to go to the next iteration to learn from the newer schools what worked and avoid some of their mistakes. But also too, this building represents a set of facilities unlike any recent vet school has had. So this is world-class facilities that offers a lot of efficiencies in the way it's designed, and the input from facilities planning construction, the design firm, the contractors have come up with a really nice building that will be unlike any other in the country.
Will this translate over to the what I'll call the remote facility?
Yes. So that's a separate design process.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're tied together. In fact, the students will be at both facilities starting first year, correct?
First semester, first year.
And that's kind of where the large animals are out at the other
Yeah,
facilities.
sure. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
He's got tremendous resources too, being located there. I know you've heard this over and over again, but there's, so many feedlots up there that, we should have adequate animals to be able to use for procedures and learn from.
That will not be a problem.
That will not be a problem.
Thank you.
This is Ron Hemmons. Is there any kind of veterinary school or veterinary medicine degree accreditation, how you say the word, accreditation body that would have any say-so over what we're doing here?
There is an accrediting body. We have engaged them. They came out for a consultative site visit and spent 4 days with us last April, and they reviewed our initial plans for the building. They are coming out at the end of spring for that first step in accreditation. They will be interested in aspects of the facilities, but we've been working with a design firm that has a consultant who specializes in accrediting, and their interest in the building will not be programmatic. It will be more, are we ensuring student safety and student experience, and we have that covered.
Security.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for anybody? If not, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve the item as presented?
Second.
Yes, I have a second. Mr. McQuinney, if you will take us through a roll call vote, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Chairman, I dialed in. Sorry, flight was delayed, but I do support the motion.
Got it. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Simons. Okay.
Mr. Griffin,
Aye.
Mr. Hammonds,
Aye.
Ms. Carrick has a no in absence. Mr. Michael Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. Long,
Aye.
Mr. Steinmetz,
Aye.
Mr. Walker,
Aye.
Mr. Womble,
Aye.
Chairman Huckabee.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have an unanimous aye voted.
Thank you very much. The motion passes. The board will now convene into executive session as authorized by section 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, and 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. Tito, please let us know when we're ready to proceed.
Yes.
video cast of the meeting. So
Okay.
we're good to go.
Videocast is back on. We are good to go, sir.
Okay, thank you. The board will now reconvene into open session. There is one motion to be presented from executive session. I move that the board authorize Presidents Lang and Rice Spearman to conclude the negotiations and execute contracts between their respective institutions and the University of Texas System Administration for transfer of appropriate funds to implement mental health initiatives through the Texas Child Mental Health Care Consortium under the terms and conditions set forth in executive session. Are there any
Second.
questions or comments related to this motion? If not, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. Mr. McQuinney, if you will, please take us through the roll call vote.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Griffin?
Aye.
Mr. Hammonds?
Aye.
Mr. Michael Lewis? Mr. Michael Lewis? Mr. Long?
Aye.
Mr. Steinmetz?
Aye.
Mr. Walker?
Aye.
Mr. Womble?
Aye.
Chairman Huckabee?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 votes in favor.
The motion passes. There are no action of any kind to be taken from the remaining items posted for discussion in executive session today. If there are no further business to come before the board, I move to adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you. The meeting of the Board of Regents of the Texas Tech University System stands adjourned. Thank you all very much for your time today.
Thank you.